Hello, welcome to another video from alpacaguild.com, and today we're going to be talking about paddock health, or specifically what we can do with a paddock that's in such a disgraceful condition as this one is behind me. Now, I've allowed this to get into this condition so that I could demonstrate these processes to you, but essentially what we have here is grass that had for some time been overgrazed, then been allowed to get particularly long, so we've got some issues with that. There's been no conditioning done to the soil here. We've got weeds, including a couple of different types of thistle. They're really bad for the alpaca. And it's just in a terrible condition. So let's see what we can do to actually improve some of these things. We'll start by having a look at what the actual problems are so that we can then put together a plan for repair. Let's go take a look. So visually, the most notable problem we have to deal with is the thistles, of which we have two varieties in this paddock. Now there are different ways that we can try to get rid of those. I have tried digging them out. Of course, you're going to leave the roots in the ground, some of it, and they will grow back again. So it's a short-term win. And the other is to spray them. And we've looked at a couple of different products for spraying. We're trying an organic one at the moment. We're not an organic farm, so we actually find that the most effective is the glyphosate. But it's a very broad weed killer, and it will pretty much kill anything that it touches, so you've got to be very careful with it. The organic one we're only just starting to experiment with, so we'll be posting some results on that as soon as we get them. But for these particular ones, we're going to be spraying them with glyphosate, get them under control. It's going to take a couple of weeks before they die down, but at least we can get them sprayed and we can let that start to do its work while we get on with some of the other challenges here. So the next challenge we're going to deal with is the weeds, of which there are many different types here. Some of them are fairly soft, broadleaf weeds. Others, like this, are sort of more twiggy. The problem with this one particularly is it breaks away from the ground very easily, but it also sticks to their fleece. So if the alpaca were to roll on the ground, they'd pick some of this up and they'd carry it around with them. And that can cause them a bit of distress, especially if it's perhaps clinging to their head or their tail. They're trying to kick it away, and it's not easy to always get to them, certainly in a paddock, to be able to pull this off. So it's it's quite a fragile sort of plant certainly once it dies, but we don't want this in the paddock. It's nasty. We've got to get rid of this. So here we have a whole collection of things. We have some of these twiggy weeds that we were just talking about. We've got some of the broadleaf weeds. There's even a bit of thistle in here. Thankfully the alpaca don't like this. They don't go near it. But even though it may not be problematic to them, it is actually taking up some of the paddock area. So it's less grass that you've got for your animals. And of course, there's the alpaca poo pile. We need to get rid of this as well because, again, it's a large area that they're not going to be able to eat anywhere near, so you're just wasting space. And although there's some great microbes and things going on here that we can use in the garden, the paddock is not the place for it. So in this area alone, there is quite a bit of work that we need to do to clean up. Our alpaca regularly enjoy a snack of tree lucerne or poplar, so we often take branches and cuttings and put them in the paddock for them. They actually love to roll around on the branches, so we leave them on the ground. It's a good play area for them, but these do need to be cleared up once all the leaves have gone, otherwise they can just rot down and create a nasty mess or even a trip hazard for the alpaca. Well, this is an area that we need to preserve because this is one of the alpaca's most enjoyable areas on our farm. Whenever I get any really good quality topsoil, doing any sort of soil movement around here, I tend to leave it here, and I've built up a bit of a mountain. They love it. They love to be able to climb all over it. They love being able to get to that extra sort of height above the others. They're a bit of a king of the castle kind of thing, and they really enjoy just using it as a bit of a climbing frame. But this area here is where they like to roll. So they'll often sit in this and make a big dust ball of themselves. It captures all of the midday sun, and it really helps them with any sort of ticks and mites they might have on their body, just to get some of that dirt in there. They absolutely love playing in this area. So as much as we're going to really try to tidy this paddock up, this is one area that has to be kept. So the other thing that we'll have to keep, or the alpacas will be very cross with us, is our mud pit here. Now, it may look disgusting at the moment, but on the really hot summer days, we fill this with water and they just love to bathe in it. It's a great way for them to cool down. Squirting a hose on the alpaca is one thing, they really enjoy that, but coming in here and just being able to wallow is fantastic. It's not so good when it's muddy, and we're looking forward to shearing coming up very soon. That can be a bit of a disaster, but when this has got some clean water in it on a hot summer's day, it's unbeatable. So we'll be keeping this for them. So the other thing we need to talk about, of course, is the grasses that grow here. And we've got a range of different grasses, as you probably do too. We may even find that we have different grasses growing in different areas of the farm. Some of them are very endemic, some of them are fast growing, some of them will spread quickly and will really dominate across your farm, and others may die out as a result of that. So things like overspreading or resowing are important if you want to control the type of grass you've got. That can be expensive, it can be hard work, but there's a lot that we can do to control the different things we've got through various herbicides and pesticides as well. Now, we have a particular problem here with one particular grass type, which is ryegrass. Now, ryegrass is genetically modified. It can cope with blistering heat, very cold conditions as well. It can cope with being wet, it can cope with being dry. I mean, generally it's seen as a very good grass for most animals, but not for alpaca. There's an endophyte that can live in it, both at the very tip and right down at the roots. And this is a problem for alpaca. Certainly if they come into a new paddock that hasn't been topped or had any work done to it, then they are going to potentially get some of those endophytes from the tip. And if we graze too heavily, they're going to get the endophytes that live right down at the ground level, at root level. And these can cause various things, including staggers, which is a very unpleasant condition for alpaca and should really be avoided if at all possible. We might do a video some other time on staggers and what we can do to avoid that, or at least overcome it if we see it in the animals. So this is a challenge, but rather than oversow or do anything really significant here to try to change the type of grass we've got, we're going to make sure that we don't let it get too low, that we keep it topped so that the opportunity for them to get the endophyte is reduced as much as possible. Okay, so there are a number of things that we need to get started with to give the very best to our alpaca. You deserve the best, don't you? Yeah, you want a nice, healthy paddock, because you know that healthy grass is for a healthy animal. Oh. Miss Moneypenny here and Natalia behind her always features in our videos. They definitely like their time in front of the camera, don't you girls? Yes. Well, there's only so much time we can spend enjoying ourselves. I think we need to get on with some of the work now and actually get this paddock back to full health. What do you reckon? Are you going to help? You going to do anything to help? No. Will you criticise once it's all done? Will you come and judge it for us? You will? Good. Let's get started, shall we? Come on, girls.